If I Should Wake Before I Die is one of the most powerful episodes of Little House on the Prairie. It will always remain unforgettable in my memorable list. In that episode, it's about an old lady by the name of Amy. She was close to another lady by the name of Hattie. Hattie basically was going through her life as an old woman, dealing with the realities of life. What do I mean by that? I'm specifically referring to her family members who decided to just continue with their own lives without considering Hattie completely. They just decided to just go their own way and just focus more on their loved ones instead of distant relatives or others who they grew up with when they were children. And Hattie realized that. One day, Hattie and Amy were together. I think Hattie was in Amy's home, and Amy, she was completely aware of Hattie's grief. She knew that Hattie was very sad about that reality. So she was trying to comfort Hattie by letting her know that you should not pay too much attention to the lives of others from your family who decided to move on with their lives. You need to just basically keep it moving, because if you remain glued to those who are not willing to remain in contact with you, you're going to live a miserable life. I'm just paraphrasing what Amy was telling Hattie, but basically that's what Amy was telling Hattie in a nutshell. And while Amy was talking to Hattie, Hattie was sitting on her rocking chair with a recent letter in her hand. And that letter uh, came from one of her family members who told her that he or she cannot make it to see her for whatever reasons. And in the past, she received numerous letters like that. So Hattie didn't say a word when Amy, her friend, was talking. But during the conversation, while Hattie was rocking back and forth on her wheelchair, suddenly the camera zoomed into her hands. And in her hands, she was still holding on to that letter. And suddenly, she stopped rocking her chair. And then the letter just fell from her hands. At that moment, I knew that she passed away. And Amy didn't realize that Hattie passed away until she raised her head and looked towards Hattie. And then that's when she came to the realization that her longtime friend is no longer with her. So later on, they had the funeral service close to the church. Several folks from Walnut Grove appeared at the funeral, including Mr. and Mrs. Olson, Dr. Baker, Charles and his family, and several others that I didn't recognize. Uh, Amy was there, but she was several feet away from the funeral service. She was, in fact, standing next to Charles' wagon, and Mary and Laura were sitting in the back of Charles' wagon. And Laura was having an interesting conversation with Amy. She said to Amy, "Why is it that grown-ups, when they hear about the passing of a loved one from their families, why is it that they go out of their way to see them when they are dead? You know, why is that? Why do they, do that? Why don't they just come around, when their family members are alive? Why is it that they wait until they hear that so and so passed away, you know?" Uh, and Laura also added to that by saying that shouldn't that be the other way around? Shouldn't family members come around when you are alive and well? And Amy's response to her was, yes, there are a lot of things in this world that should be the other way around, which was a powerful statement Whoever wrote the script for that episode was on point. I think it was Michael Landon. But anyway, Laura presented an interesting question to Amy that caused Amy to just stop and think. And here's the question. Laura said to Amy, uh, shouldn't grown-ups have funeral services while they are alive so that they can tell their family members goodbye before they die? And then suddenly Amy just turned around slowly and looked at Laura with this look. And while she was looking at Laura, the wheels within her mind began to move at a rapid pace. At that moment, she got the message. She said, that is such a fantastic idea. So later on in the episode, Amy decided to fake her illness. She pretended to be sick. Laura came around just to check on Amy, and then that's when Amy told Laura, I'm sick. Go get Dr. Baker. So she ran, and she ran back to Walnut Grove and got a hold of her father, Charles, and told Charles, listen, Amy is sick. So, Charles said, okay, I'm going to go grab Dr. Baker. That's the thing. When anyone is sick in Little House on the Prairie, they are always quick to say, I got to go get Dr. Baker. So Dr. Baker and Charles ended up in her home, and they were talking to Amy. Dr. Baker was taking her temperature, examining her, and then he said, I can't believe it. He's looking at the thermometer. He said, I can't believe it. I just cannot see anything wrong with you. I don't know what's going on with you. And she said, I have pain over here and there. She was faking the funk. And then, right after that moment, that's when she said to both Dr. Baker and Charles Ingalls, she said, listen, at my funeral, I want you to make sure that my family members are there at my funeral. Can you both keep that promise to me? And at first, Dr. Baker was resistant. He said, listen, you're not going to die anytime soon. You're healthy and all that. And she continued to press the question. She said, can you please make me that promise that they will be there at my funeral? So eventually, they both gave in and said, yes, Amy, we will do that for you. After they said those words, Amy just jumped out of her bed and said, okay, that is settled. Now we have to take care of this. We have to make arrangements for that. And then Charles and Dr. Baker looked at each other like, what is going on here? And then at that moment, that's when they realized that she was faking her sickness. And then Dr. Baker said something that was so funny to me. He said, Amy, you're about to be 80 years old, but you're never too old for me to put you over my lap so I can give you a good spanking to you because of you faking your illness. That's basically what he said. I'm just paraphrasing it. But it was pretty funny to me. And then after Dr. Baker said that, Amy convinced both of them that, hey, listen, come on now. My friend Hattie just passed away. Why is it that people will go out of their way for their loved ones after they die? Why can't they come together to check on their loved ones when they are alive? Why is that? I want to change that wicked tradition. That thing that mankind tends to cling on, thinking that it's okay, it's proper to see their loved ones after they die. But while they are alive and well, they feel that it's not necessary to remain in contact with their loved ones. So she said, I want to change that tradition. So she convinced both Dr. Baker, Charles, and eventually Charles' wife, Carolyn, to set up a funeral service, a wake for Amy. But it was actually, they were actually setting up for Amy's 80th birthday because she was about to turn 80 years old. But everybody in the town thought that she passed away. They didn't realize that during the service, right, that Charles, Dr. Baker, and his family, Charles' family set up, they didn't, forgive me, I'm trying to get the words right. no one knew that she died. No one knew that she passed away. There was a lady in that place during the service dressed in black with a dark veil over her face. None of them knew that it was Amy in disguise. And she was just looking around just to see what other people are doing and what they will say to each other about her. And some of them were saying some good things about her past and her, what she used to do or whatever. And then suddenly, one by one, each of her family members did arrive to her funeral service. And then they got together and they began to talk to each other. And then suddenly, this one tall gentleman appeared. This was a guy that Amy thought died during the war. I believe it was the Civil War. And she was shocked to see that he was still alive. And then suddenly Amy approached her family members by lifting up her veil. And when they saw that she was alive, one of the family members said, Amy, how could you? I think it was her brother that said, Amy, how could you? You know, this is such a shame that you faked your death. Why did you do this? This is a terrible thing that you did. And Amy responded by saying, I did this because I'm so sick and tired of this tradition. People feel that they can come around for their family members when they're dead. Why is that? Why can't you come and see me now while I'm alive and well? Why is that? Don't you think there's something wrong with that picture? And she said many other things related to that. And ultimately, the family members firmly agreed with Amy. And that was basically the ending of the episode. If I should wake before I die. Before I close up this video, I just want to add additional words to this episode. I can relate to Amy, and I believe that there are many of you that can relate to what I'm about to say right now. There are so many family members right now who are at home, alone, wishing that their loved ones who they used to grow up with, who they used to be around with, who grew up with them. A lot of family members across the globe are suffering within themselves because of the lack of communication between those family members who are suffering and those who have decided to move on with their lives. And that is understandable. I understand that each and every one of us has a life to live. Of course, we have responsibilities. We even have our own personal families, our wife, our children, whatever. But the problem, and this is an old problem, and this is it, guys. The fact that a lot of people feel that it's okay to make time for their loved ones when they are dead. That shouldn't be the case. We shouldn't have to wait until one of us hears that someone from the family passed away, and then now we have to run to the clothing store and buy a nice suit and pick up some flowers and then fly across the nation just to be there, just to pay our respects. We shouldn't have to do that anymore. Right now, if you have a family member, or if you have a family, nowadays I understand that there's a lot of people that don't have families. I understand that. I'm referring to those who do have families, and they are alone. They are broken. They feel that those that they used to be with back in the days don't care about them anymore. And the solution to that problem, the remedy, is this. Pick up your phone. If you don't want to verbally talk to them, I understand that too, because nowadays a lot of people don't like to use their phones to talk to someone. They rather just text. So I get that. I can relate to that. Just text the person. Text them through your phone. Just say, hey, how you doing? I thought about you and I just wanted to find out if everything is okay with you. Especially right now during this lockdown. There are a lot of family members who wish that they can reach out to their family members, physically, but they can't because of this coronavirus thing. But what I'm saying is that due to modern technology, you simply have no excuse. There's this thing called Zoom that you can actually see the person. You know, I heard about that app, I just never used it. I have an iPhone, so I use FaceTime. So if I want to see somebody, there's no excuse, guys. This is not the 1800s. This is not the days of Amy and Hattie and Little House. No. This is 2020. None of us have an excuse. So if you have family who you haven't reached out to in a long time, now is the best time to show your respect, show your love to your family members, because you don't know what that family member is going through. Maybe he or she is suffering because you moved on, and I understand that you moved on, but still, you should be empathetic and considerate, because we shouldn't have to continue to cling on to that wicked tradition, according to the words of Amy from Little House. This is the Preacher Man signing out. May the Lord Yeshua Mashiach bless you all and your loved ones. And in Yeshua's holy name, I say all these things. Amen. Peace.